Our lesson today is going to be talking about something that we're all familiar with, and that's a power struggle. So we know that people battle back and forth all through time over power, who's in control and who's in charge. Well, as we look at this lesson, Jesus overpowers Legion, we see that there is no real battle because Christ truly does have all power in his hand. Let's focus in today on Mark chapter 5, verses 1 through 13 and 8 through 20. And it reads, And they came over unto the other side of the sea, into the country of the Gadarenes. And when he was come out of the ship, immediately there met him out of the tombs a man with an unclean spirit, who had his dwelling among the tombs, and no man could bind him, nor not with chains, because he has been often bound with fetters and chains, and the chains had been plucked asunder by him, and the fetters broken into pieces, neither could any man tame him. And always night and day he was in the mountains and in the tombs crying, and cutting himself with stones. But when he saw Jesus afar off, he ran and worshipped him, and cried with a loud voice, and said, What have I to do with thee, Jesus, thou Son of the Most High God? I adjure thee by God that thou torment me not. For he said unto him, Come out of the man, thou unclean spirit. And he asked him, What is thy name? And he answered, saying, My name is Legion, for we are many. And he besought him much that he would not send them away out of the country. Now there was there nigh unto the mountain a great herd of swine feeding. And the devils besought him, saying, Send us into the swine, that we may enter into them. And forthwith Jesus gave them leave, and the unclean spirits went out and entered into the swine. And the herd came and ran violently down a steep hill into the sea. They were about 2,000, and were choked in the sea. And when he was come into the ship, he that had been possessed with the devil prayed him that he might be with him. Howbeit Jesus suffered him not, but said unto him, Go home to thy friends, and tell them how great things the Lord has done for thee, and hath compassion on thee. And he departed, and began to publish in Decapolis how great things Jesus had done for him, and all men did marvel. When we look at this portion of the scripture this morning, we're seeing that this is one of the things that Jesus talked about, and that was recorded of one of his acts, was that when it says they came to the other side, it's referencing Jesus and the disciples. And as they came into the country of the Gadarenes, they were immediately met by this man that was filled with unclean spirits. And he was often found cutting himself and screaming and yelling night and day, because these demon spirits, these unclean spirits, caused him to cut himself. And he was so strong that they couldn't chain him. They couldn't even fetter him. It said that he couldn't even be tamed. He was as if he was a wild man. And in this state, he would often break loose the chains when they tried to contain him. That's how strong he was, because he was possessed. And we see that even when they tried to bound him with feathers, which were even stronger than some of the chains, he'd pluck those loose too, and he'd break those. But then this went on night and day, and the man lived in the mountains. He had isolated himself, but the demons still continued to torment him. But something interesting happened. When he saw Jesus afar off, when he saw Jesus when he departed from the ship and started walking, this man that was demon possessed ran to Christ, and he bowed down and worshiped him. And we see here several things that are happening. First of all, even though these were unclean spirits, they recognized who Christ was, and they knew that he was the King of Kings and he was the Lord of Lords. They knew that he was the Son of God. So when they ran to him and they bowed down and worshiped him, they begged of him, Please, please, don't hurt us. Send us out of this man, because Jesus commanded that these demons leave this man. So they were asking him that when they take him out, don't get rid of them. They said to don't torment them. Don't make them have to suffer and struggle. And so Jesus, hearing their prayer, he sent the unclean spirits into what we call pigs or swine. But before we go far in this story, I want you to see a couple of interesting things. These demons, these evil spirits, they recognized who Christ was. This is why sometimes when people say, I believe, and often you'll say, well, that's not enough, because Satan, the demons, the devils, they believe and tremble. And then you ask why. How can they say they believe? It's because they were rebellious spirits. Keep in mind that the angels originally were in heaven, but when Satan rebelled against God, a third of heaven was cast out. So the evils and the demons and stuff that roamed this earth were part of the ones that followed Satan. And Satan was cast out from heaven, and the scripture said that he fell to the earth as a lightning, as a streak of lightning falling. And right now, this word tells us he's the prince of this air, which means he's sort of have some control, or at least he's been loosed on this earth. So then, therefore, he influences people to do evil things. Or these spirits seek a place to dwell, to carry out their rebellious acts. But we see, even though they knew this, they knew that they were no match for Christ. So they asked him, they said, we beg you, we adjure you, please, please don't torment us. And Jesus, as I mentioned, when he cast the unclean spirits from the man, they were sent into a herd of pigs that were on the side of the mountain. And they were so, when they were inherited, or in these evil spirits moved into their bodies, and they were so incensed and they went so crazy that they ran down the mountainside and they ran into the ocean. And then over 2,000 of them were drowned. But also during this time when we were looking at this, where he said, Jesus asked them a question. And that question being, after he cast the man out, he asked the demons, what's your name? And they answered and said, my name is Legion, for we are many. My name is Legion, for we are many. He's answering as one spirit, but he's saying that they are legion, which is a multitude. And so when he said that they were many, we see that when he cast those out, like I said, over 2,000 swine were filled with these spirits and these devils. So they ran and killed themselves in the sea. They ran violently, the scripture says, down the side of the mountains. So this lets us know that if animals react this way when they're being possessed or filled with unclean spirits, for us it's a warning that we have to be even more careful. Because if this effect can happen to animals, think when you allow Satan to use you, when you allow spirits to dwell in you. Because we already saw what was happening to this man that was being possessed. He cut himself. He injured himself. He yelled and he screamed both night and day, and he was unable to be contained. See, we see that after Jesus had cast these spirits out and they ran into the swine, he then came to the man that was possessed with the devil, and then he prayed with him. This shows you the power of Christ, so that if something's going wrong, the importance of calling on Jesus and recognizing him for who he is. Then it shows us the power of prayer. These demons were cast out, but Jesus still prayed with this man. And when he prayed with the man immediately became well. But not only that, he asked the Lord, let me go with you. Let me follow you. Let me be a witness to what you've done. But we see here Jesus did something interesting. It's still a form of discipleship. He told this man, no, I don't need you to come with me as I continue to move throughout this land. He said, I need you to go back home and tell the people at home what's happened to you and about this change. You see, when you really changed, you can't help but tell somebody. You can't help but testify to the goodness of the Lord and the change that he's made in your life. So he told this man, go home and tell the people about what I've done for you. And this man, even though he was unnamed, he did exactly what Christ said. And the lesson said that when he left them, when he departed, he went back to Decapolis. And he said he told everybody how great a thing this man called Jesus had done. He told all the men that he came in contact with about this Christ, this Messiah. And all of the men marveled that a man could do such things. But we all know that Jesus is much more than just a mere mortal or a mere man. We know that he has all power in his hand and that he can cast out demons. So the next time that you feel like you're being overtaken or you're troubled by a situation or you're uneasy, turn to the man. Or as the song say, turn to the man from Galilee. Talk to Jesus. Pray because he has the power to do what no other power can do. And this lesson proved it, that he had the power to overcome legion, which meant we are many. So he can outdo one demon, but he can outdo all demons. See you next week.